Raising awareness of safeguarding. Abuse can be hard to spot. Abuse can be hidden. People don't always tell you. Abuse can take many forms. Individuals may suffer from physical abuse, sexual abuse, or domestic abuse. They may be a victim of modern slavery, discrimination, or psychological abuse. They may show signs of self-neglect, organisational abuse, financial abuse, or neglect. There are many possible signs of abuse. Individuals may be injured, appear isolated, or reckless. They may become angry, anxious, neglectful, or aggressive. They may appear fragile, withdrawn, or uninterested in food. If you think you've spotted abuse, you can do something. Talk to someone. You will be listened to.
One of the key issues when trying to understand the protection of children is that of significant harm, which is viewed by the court as being the limit that justifies compulsory intervention into family life to protect the child's safety and well-being. There are no defined criteria in which to judge significant harm. It is judged upon a range of factors, including the severity of the ill treatment, degree and extent of physical harm, duration and frequency of abuse and neglect, extent of premeditation, degree of threat and coercion, presence of sexual abuse. Sometimes a single traumatic event may account to significant harm, such as a violent assault, suffocation, or poisoning. More often, significant harm is a collection of significant events, both acute and long-standing, which can interrupt, change, or damage the child's physical and psychological development. To understand and establish whether significant harm has or is likely to occur, it is necessary to consider the child's individual needs, emotional, educational, and behavioral, the parenting ability of the carer, providing support and guidance, setting boundaries, and providing stability, the family and environmental factors, housing, employment, income, and community resources, the nature of the harm, ill treatment, or the inability to provide adequate care. It is important to recognize that significant harm may be caused by acts of both omission and of commission, an adult or a child or a young person, a stranger or somebody in a position of trust. Many factors increase the vulnerability of children. These factors vary with the age of the child, the setting within which the interaction and the awareness of the adult concerned. Increased vulnerability may not be due to an adult's deliberate actions, but may be because of a lack of awareness of the adult concerned. The fact that vulnerability is increased, however, is the key factor, irrespective of whether this is deliberate or due to a lack of awareness. Whether the actions that increase vulnerability are deliberate or not makes no difference to the unpleasant effects they have on the child. There are many factors that affect children and thus increase their vulnerability. Below are some examples. Isolation, not knowing who to go to for help and support, communication difficulties, learning difficulties, disability, poor support, limited education and life experience, dependency on others for basic care. In addition, there are factors that influence adults. These in turn can increase a child's vulnerability. Some examples are denial that anything is wrong. For example, a parent not accepting that another family member could be increasing a child's vulnerability. Ignorance of signs that would indicate a child's increased vulnerability. The vulnerability cycle. The majority of adults that increase a child's vulnerability were probably vulnerable children themselves. Protection of children starts with the early recognition of vulnerability. It is important to remember that all vulnerable children need to be protected from harm. The key factor in the protection of vulnerable children is the recognition of the signs of abuse and neglect. A change in the child's behavior is often an early sign that something is wrong. The presence of a single change in behavior does not prove the existence of abuse or harm. However, when such behavioral changes appear repeatedly or in combination, the situation must be examined more closely and the possibility of harm or abuse considered. Child protection is everyone's business because of the shocking consequences abuse has on children of all ages and the damage it causes to adult survivors for the rest of their lives. It causes a great deal of anxiety to the victim and the other people involved. If there is a suspicion that a child is being harmed, reporting the suspicions may protect the child. The following are examples of behavioral signs that may signal the presence of abuse, harm, or neglect. Nightmares, trouble sleeping, fear of the dark or other sleeping problems. Extreme fear of monsters. Loss of appetite or problems with eating or swallowing. Sudden mood swings, rage, fear, anger, or withdrawal. Fear of certain people, e.g., a child may not want to be left alone with a babysitter, a friend, a relative, or some other child or adult. Or a child who is usually talkative and cheery may become quiet and distant when around a certain person. Sexual activities with toys or other children, such as simulating sex with dolls or asking other children, siblings, to behave sexually. New words for private body parts. Refusing to talk about a secret she has with an adult or older child. Talking about a new, older friend. Suddenly having money. Self-harming, such as cutting or burning. There are other forms of behavior that also require vigilance. When an abuser and an abused child are together, then the abuser often displays certain behaviors. Any one of these in isolation is not a sign of child abuse. However, when such behaviors appear repeatedly or in combination, the situation must be examined more closely and the possibility of child abuse considered. Often, an adult or older child who is abusing a child will rarely leave the child alone in the presence of other adults, refuse to allow a child to set any of his or her own limits, insist on hugging, touching, kissing, tickling, wrestling with, or holding a child even when the child does not want this affection, manage to get time alone or insist on time alone with a child with no interruptions, spend most of her spare time with children and have little interest in spending time with someone of their own age, regularly offers to babysit many different children without payment or to take children on overnight outings alone, buy the child expensive gifts or give money for no apparent reason, frequently walk into the bathroom without knocking or asking first, allow the child to consistently get away with inappropriate behavior. Through being aware of the warning signs, adults can be far more aware of the possibility of harm, abuse, or neglect. Whenever the signs are recognized, the adult must respond and ensure protection for the child. Organizations should have a set of procedures in place to ensure that all children get the appropriate level of protection from harm to meet their needs. Much depends on the type of organization. However, some of the more important procedures are child protection policies, recruitment and selection of staff, volunteers, training and development to raise awareness or statutory training, investigation procedures, what to do in the event of an allegation of abuse, reporting and recording incidents.